In this video, I'll show you how to unlock this $99 entry-level headphone to its full potential in a studio setting as a surprisingly capable budget reference tool for mixing and monitoring. Hey, welcome to Project Beats. My name is Joven. Before we dive in, quick reminder, if you enjoy these kinds of videos and want to support the channel, do me a solid, hit that subscribe button and like, comment, and all that good stuff. Really appreciate it. Alright, on to the R30X. By the way, I'm giving this away to one of you guys. Full details at the end of the video. Huge thanks to Audio-Technica Singapore for sending this over and sponsoring the giveaway. Full disclosure, all thoughts and opinions are 100% my own. They don't get to see the video before you guys do. Here are the specs on the screen and we'll go straight to my thoughts. After testing for a bit, here are the things that I like about it. First, super lightweight, one of the lightest headphones I've tried at just over 210 grams. Headband, surprisingly, I prefer this over the other two. It functions better than the R70XA, talking about the strap, and in my opinion, the capper strap upgrade is needed for the R70XA. This, for the stock headband, is good enough. Comfort-wise, I have no major complaint about all three of them. The design is simple. I like the logo placement from the inside. I think it's a nice touch. Comfort-wise, the velour ear pads are comfortable. It's not like premium tier plush, but totally fine for the price. If you want to do serious mixes on these, I would suggest getting a ear pad upgrade. I feel at times there's a bit of a leak, so you don't get that fuller response, especially on the low end. Another thing is this responds well to EQ, which I will get into shortly. So for recommendation, if you really like to, you can get the capper strap upgrade for this as well, and then ear pads. I'm not entirely sure if this has third-party support or compatible ear pads at the moment because this is very new, but you could probably try the oval ear pads upgrade for the R70X. I'm guessing that could work with this. Some minor things for me, non-removable cable, but I'm sure some of you creative people will find a way to do that if you really like to. It doesn't come with pouch or case, again part of probably cost cutting. It has a smaller driver compared to the R50 and the R70XA, just something to note, but that also means smaller ear pads compared to the other two, which may or may not affect your HRTF or head related transfer function and the way it interacts with soundstage and imaging, especially if the pad sits closer to or on your ears instead of around ears. For me, it feels more like an on-ear, and that may affect your HRTF, of course. R70XA feels wider pads, definitely, compared to the R30X. Probably just me, but I feel like the driver is farther away compared to the other two. So I think the character change, if you upgraded the ear pads, will be more obvious here. These are just nitpicky things. I don't really have an actual legitimate complaint about the R30X, especially at this price point. As for subjective sound impression, now again, I'm speaking from a studio guy's perspective, not an audiophile one, so what matters to me may not matter to you. And this whole headphone series is just me trying to explore different headphones out there and what could be used in the studio. Basically me just being a gearhead. Also, some of you may or may not know, I mix primarily on headphones, so sort of a journey of what's best, if you will. As for sound, after having a bit more time with it and experimenting with EQ corrections, I'm pretty impressed with what they have achieved here. I thought this would be a bit lackluster on the low end, but surprisingly pretty decent fullness and presence on the low end. It's lively and punchy. It's not as fast or as resolving, but it holds its own on busy mixes. The mid-range is decent and detailed. The top end is a bit more forward than what I would like. Low-end presence is not as apparent compared to the other fuller sounding headphones. You would need to tame down the top end a little bit to really balance it out. Personally, to be honest, I wouldn't really mix on it without EQ, or at least not right away. I would really need to spend time to understand and really know the headphones better and let my ears adjust to the tuning and response before I do serious mixes. I A/B tested it against my HD650 and dare I say this felt livelier at times. It has more air on the top end but almost hits that DCA level brightness. I'm okay with it on some songs, but on bright mixes I immediately wanted to pull down some of the highs. But this has a wider sense of space in comparison to this, at least to my ears. For the price, honestly, price to performance, I don't know of any headphones that comes close in terms of raw performance and mix viability, especially if you're willing to EQ. Some of the songs that I tried is Animals as Leaders, Microaggressions. This headphones handle that well. The track is mixed a bit more low and forward, so it pairs nicely with the R30X's bright top end, creating that nice balance. Larry Basilio's running to the other side, you can hear that greater sense of space, wider soundstage. Mids punch through. Low end felt sufficient. I didn't find myself wanting more low end. As for the top end, John Mayer's Slow Dancing in the Burning Room, which at the moment is my go-to for upper mids and treble. This is a bit bright for that track, so I had to turn down the volume after that Animals as Leaders track. Overall, low end feels sufficient. This leans a bit bright on the top end, but with a simple shelf, maybe about 3 to 5 dB or so, this balances out really nicely. Compared to the HD650 without EQ or anything, this has narrower soundstage, warmer tone, mids are smoother and more natural. The R30X on the other hand has more air, more excitement in general, but I prefer to EQ this down on the top end. And when you do, the bass and the low end opens up a bit more. It feels punchy and a bit more balanced. As for DAC amp pairing, for on-the-go mixing, I use the Chord Mojo 2, but I don't think this is an ideal match. This is a bit overkill, but who am I to tell you that? I do think that you will want more precise EQ options for the R30X, and this has limited EQ controls, and it costs 2 to 3 times more than the R30X. So it doesn't really make sense, especially if you're on a budget. You could maybe look at Shit Magni or Topping DX3 Pro, but honestly, this headphone is very easy to drive. Even your phone, your laptop could drive it no problem. So any audio interface you may already have should work well. My recommendation, if you want a flexible and efficient all-in-one setup with EQ and crossfeed on the go, seriously consider the QDelix 5K. You get built-in EQ, which I think for the R30X is a game changer. It has great companion app that has more custom profiles than you would ever need. You could save EQ correction target for mixing, save one for easy listening, and another one for A/B testing your mixes on. Again, one of its features is crossfeed built right in. That and the EQ for me is really essential for critical mixes on the headphones. Before we go to EQ correction, I had an audiophile friend to try it out, and here's what he has to say about it.
The R30 actually is, between all these three, I prefer the R30. It's more better listening experience. R50, it has more details. Low end wise, I still prefer the R30. It has low end but not as round as the R30. For the R70, the low end is almost the same as the R50, although what I like about the R70 is that the clarity, the details are here. I can actually hear the echoing sound of the vocals. There's a tail end in its voice that is echoing, and I can clearly hear it decaying on this compared to this R50. I mean, this is a good entry for open back if you're into hi-fi. I would skip hi-fi, man.
Yeah, I would get this for that price,
Yeah.
no? Oh, that's 130 SGD.
Oh.
I don't think you could get any hi-fi man brand new with that price.
Yes. If you're going into like hi-fi, this is a good start. My final thoughts between R50, R30, and R70 is that in general, R30 is good enough. It has good clarity, a good low end. Actually, it's very enjoyable to listen to. R50 is more of the neutral kind of headphone to me. It's I think it's more for referencing and studio peeps. And for the R70, it's more of a hi-fi centric experience. When I listen to the classical, I can hear clearly the breathing of the musicians. I can hear clearly the thump of the pianist, the fingers, which actually leans toward the hi-fi listening. Yeah. So I think the R70 is a good platform if you want to play with amplifiers and tubes as a hi-fi. All in all, as a reference headphones, I would choose R50 for its neutrality. It's not as fun listening experience with the R50, but yeah, for what the engineer, sound engineer needs, R50 will do the job. It's a good competitor for this HD650. Yeah, but I haven't AB yet. I have the HD600.
Yeah.
If I don't have the HD600, I would go with R50.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah. R600 is good, but sometimes it's tiring to
You mean
listen
HD?
to. But if I have the budget and I want to maximize it, one R50 and one R70.
Okay, so here's the exciting part for me, where we really unlock the R30X. Gonna be unlocking with the EQ. All the things we need is Quick Link by Capper Audio. It's not SonarWorks Sound ID. More on that rant later. I do own it for speakers and headphones, but I don't recommend it for purely headphones mixing. Another thing you need is a high-res reference song that you really know, minimum at least 24-bit 48K, and then an EQ at the end of your master chain. This is when you're mixing. Optional quality of life improvement would be Sound Source app or QDLX 5K. That's just going to be drag and drop profiles after you corrected your headphones on the squiggling. Also, again, the QDLX 5K has crossfeed and EQ profiles. So really important features for headphones mixing. There are other options as well, but for today, we'll just focus on correcting the R30X. To tune the R30X for critical mixing, we will use Harman Combine 2013 because I feel that that's going to be widely available on this platform. You could also try Harman Neutral or Diffuse Field. Those are the three that you could play around with. Or you can have all these profiles saved to your either sound source or your EQ profiles or the QDLX. So you can change between them, A/B test it, right? I'll do a separate video on how to mix with headphones, but for now we'll just do the R30X correction profile. Right, so squiggling. So for here, we'll search for R30X, Capper Audio. Okay, this is the only one that they have here for the R30X, again, because it's new. Here, we'd see the measurement. Brightness there, upper mid-range, 6K mostly. And then you have a fade there. This bump right here really shows us that it's a little bit bright. The great thing about this headphone is it has a lot of low end, as you can see here. Big bump there on 100, and then from 50 it fades down, which is good because I think HD650 is down from 80 below. So this is good. When we're doing correction, it's much better if we subtract frequencies rather than add them. If you're going to be adding, at least don't do a lot. Around maybe 5 dB around there would still sound natural. If you go over 10 dB addition, it might not sound as good. So just be aware of that. So for correction, since there is not a lot of option, because normally if you have a lot of options right here, EQ correction will be as easy as just export and import to whatever profile correcting software you have. But since it's the only one we have here, I'll show you how that looks in a bit. But for now, we'll go to EQ. Let's go to Logic Pro, set it up. This is an empty project, but just imagine you're working on a whole project. Then you will have a lot of tracks right there. On one of those tracks, one or two, you would like to have a reference track there. It doesn't really have to be the same genre as what you're mixing. You just need your reference track to represent the whole frequency range and maybe stereo imaging and all that. Soundstage as well, right? But for now, let's do vultures maybe. Just waiting on the world to change. Okay, this is 96K, and let's do 48K. That's gonna be fine. Because my reference track is 24-bit 96K. And then if you want to have one more, let's do slow dancing, because again, that's my reference for top end. Right, okay, let me solo this and just check my volume. I'm using the Mojo 2. My setting on crossfeed is about medium. There's 3 ways crossfeed on the Mojo 2. I'm in the middle. That's pretty good on its own, actually. Just a bit bright, that's it. But it's pretty good. So on your master chain right here, let's set this up as if you're doing a final master. For me, just simple one, V3. And then let's do Shadow Hills. Normally, you'd have a LUFS meter, LUFS. At the very end, let's do basic EQ here. The one that we're using here is Diffuse Field. I already saved that. R30x, diffuse field bass. Okay, that's the diffuse field bass correction. That's how it will look like. 6 EQ band here. If you're doing this from scratch, here's how you do it in Capra Audio. So I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, add that. Frequency range, set this up to 20K. Our target now is diffuse field. I won't change anything else on the type of cue or shelf. I'll leave it as is. So once you're done with this, you will press auto EQ here on the bottom left. Okay, here's the thing. It will say auto EQ is running. It could take 5 to 20 seconds or more. It won't leave this page, right? But the thing is, we can still see the EQ correction on the left anyway. So we're gonna have to do this good old manual. So on the 20 hertz plus 10.4 dB, Q1. That's it. And then the second one, we have 120 hertz. That's it, minus 4.4 on the Q. 4.1. Depending on your EQ that you're using, sometimes it will be a bit different, but we'll go with the closest one. Next is 650 hertz, 0.6 gain, just a tiny bit, 2.3 Q. That's it. 2100 here, 2.9, 1.7. We got it spot on. I did the correction manually, but I'll save it and export it for Logic Pro users, and you can just copy and paste. So we have 2400 hertz here, and then we have 2.1 gain, 1.9 on a Q, good. And then lastly, 16,000 minus 7.7.2. That's how the correction profile will look. If we play slow dancing, if I turn it off, immediately big difference there. A bit MIDI sounding tuning. If you turn this on, really balances out really nicely. This is actually super impressive. Like the sound quality is very impressive. It's immersive. Yeah, with just few updates here, ear pads, and the headband is just mainly convenience, but the ear pads will affect the consistency of the tuning or the frequency response. Yeah, this actually sounds good. So if I change either reference track, usually when the voice enters here, it gets bright, at least for me. Yeah, that's good actually. Really balanced. That's it, man. That's good. You go back to Capra Audio. The green line you see here is the resulting profile. That's our target, diffuse field target, which is a more neutral sounding profile. As you can see, it really ducked down that 6K brightness there on the top. Mid-range, just nice. You still want to hear that mid-range, especially for mixing. And then some other things I would say, you could play around with about 120, and for the mid-range, 2.4K. You can play around with that if you want to bring that up a bit more. But I would say for me personally, I would just play with the 120 hertz. The rest, I'm good. So let me play around with 120 hertz just on the gain. As you're adjusting that, you could go back and then let's say, I can't really play around with that. Let's see, if the 120 is minus 4, let's do minus 2 and we'll bring that up here a little bit more. Like a little bit more linear from 60 to 1K, maybe around there. So let's go back to Logic, the minus 2. Let's see how it sounds. Let me listen to Waiting on the Word to change. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That is nice. If I turn off the EQ, with correction, man, it comes alive definitely. Let me see if we turn off the 120. Without it's too much. Yeah, it's more even. Minus 2 is my sweet spot personally. I wouldn't touch anything else on this configuration. Just the 120, that's it, minus 2 instead of minus 4. But I'll show you what a corrected profile preview of how it will look like with working profile. Normally you just export them. Okay, so R70XA. As you see, you have a lot of options here. Unlike the R30X, no other measurement is out there yet. Hopefully soon. I forget which one I used. Let's open both. Okay, Gadget 3 has a Harman 2013, which I like. Okay, let's go with this. This is just an example of how it usually works. Notice how there's a lot of EQ options already. I wouldn't really change a lot there except for this. We go from 20 to 20K. That's it. I hit auto EQ and it's done, right? That's the target curve. So the green is the corrected profile. This is the R70XA. It's a bit dipped on the upper mid range, but we have a good correction there. Just an example of one profile that works. So you export this. You can rename this however you want. R70XA. Let's do Harman 2013. Save that. So here, we got a sound source app, output Mojo. When we click here on effects, you'll turn on EQ headphone on, of course. And I already have a bunch of profiles saved here. Add other profile. Okay, so this is the one that we made just now. R70XA Harman 2013. You export it, it will be on your list. So I have a bunch of profiles here for the R70XA. I have a 5128 diffuse field, just a standard diffuse field. I have a linear 2018, 2024 beta Harman, and then Harman 2013, which now I have two. So, but if you have this, you don't need the EQ correction profile now at the end of your chain. You could just turn that off. Of course, the sound source will override for the whole Mac. Other features would include like volume control for each of your applications. You can do favorites here. Mainly, you will use this for EQ correction. One note, don't use the boost because somehow compresses the sound. So that's just my tip there. Like what I was saying, you can have all these EQ profiles in there. So you can have A/B test. Again, personally, I'd like to hear more mid-range, more pronounced mid-range, and then not a lot of low end, just enough so I can decide which way I want to go. So yeah, if you're doing this manually, that's how you do it. You could just copy these frequencies to whatever EQ plugin you're using at the end of your master chain. If you have sound source, here's one thing you can do if you like to save the profile to your sound source app or your QDeluxe app. We downloaded this EQ correction for the R70XA, right? If you open it up, you can use it as template. You just modify those details there. You have filters, 6 filter. We just need 6 filters, so we're gonna delete the rest. You can rename it as R30x diffuse field. Let's go back and recalibrate. Again, this screen won't go away, so we're just gonna have to look at the dark image on the left. You could still see it, right? So you're just gonna copy all those info on the text edit. Just gonna do double check. 20, 10.4, 120 minus 2 instead of minus 4. 0.4, 650, 0.6, 2.3, 2100, 2.9, 1.7, okay. 2400, 2.1, 2.1, 1.9, and then lastly minus 7.7, 0.2. So, okay, I think that is good. Hit save, and then we open sound source. Bring it down here so you can see. Okay, we add a profile. Add profile here. You can do this with a QDeluxe as well. So we add this profile that we just saved on the notepad, hit open, and there it is. Then this way you don't have to add EQ at the end of your master chain. This will be changed for the whole Mac, right? Let's see the changes there. We'll toggle on and off just to hear the difference. Turn it on. Now without the correction, it's louder. That's gonna be natural. Yeah. The volume change is very obvious as well. So you're gonna have to ride your volume here if you're gonna A/B with effect and without effect. I prefer the changes in the channel EQ here, just cause it's cleaner and more. Not much volume change as well. I don't know, something is happening in there with the sound source, but it's convenient. If we turn that off in the plugin, turn the headphone correction, the volume ducks down for some reason. It still works, it works. Just a bit drastic on the volume change if you're using sound source there. Again, I wouldn't recommend using boost. You can boost your volume up there. But let me try boost here in this case. So if I turn that off with the boost. Okay, turn this on. Man, I don't like that boost. Not gonna be the best. I feel like the channel EQ provides you with a more natural sounding correction. If you're gonna use sound source, it will still work, but I would 100% avoid using boost. The thing with sound source is it's messing up with the volume a lot, and somehow I feel like it's not as open or transparent as the EQ correction within your master chain. So if you're going to be using app-based correction, I would highly recommend that Q-Delix 5K. I haven't really personally tried it yet, but I would assume since the EQ correction and the crossfeed is all integrated within the hardware, and you know it has DSP and all that, so I would assume that would be much better compared to using the Sound Source app, because you know something is happening in that app that I don't like. It seems darker too with the Sound Source. I don't know why. Maybe that's just my ear. Let me compare it with the correction on here. It has a bit more brightness. It is the same correction, so I wonder what's happening there. Let's just say for critical mixing, I would say if Sound Source is all you have another device to AB with. Could be your TV, doesn't have to be another headphones. If you like to, you could. Another thing I want to try is I want to compare it against what I said was my instant favorite out of the box experience, R50 without EQ compared to the R30 with the EQ. So we're playing Vultures. Is there a fill there? I didn't get that right. On 10 seconds, there's a fill there. Supposed to be, but I didn't hear that on the R30. Let us see. Correction on. Then play. Ooh. R30 holds up, man. Oh, it's there, okay. I thought I didn't hear it on the R30X. It's a very tiny tom fill on the 10-second mark. Seemed like tapped it ever so slightly. Okay, with correction on, this holds its own against the R50. Wait, how does the R70 feel on ear? Because for some reason the R30X feel better on ear now. Oh, okay. I would personally like for the R70 to have a bit more clamp force, but we're just comparing R50 to the R30 sound-wise. R30X, with that short test, I like the R30X. Let's try that again. Okay, that was the R50. Testing it back with the R30X on Logic here. Wow, it seems more complete. Yeah, mid's really good on the R30. Low end is full, not missing anything there on the R30X. I'll go back to the R50X. Now this feels loose now on the ears. I feel like there are some leaks there, but let me try that again. Chorus. Oh yeah. I mean, wow. Okay. Wow. With correction, R30 gets really close. At times even sounds a bit more full. With correction on, we are comparing against the R50 without correction. This with correction on is almost there. It's like right around there. Wow, that's amazing. For about half the price. Wow. This R30X is killing it. Okay, you get a bit more detail on the R50, of course. That's the difference there. And then with correction, this will be even more refined, more clarity there, especially on the top end. Not as bright as the R30X without correction, but wow. Although I can see that, you know, this has a bit more clarity there. So if you need that and you have the budget for this, I would still recommend to go for this. But if this is your budget with correction on, this is exciting, actually, to be honest. This is, wow. I got excited there. This is good. This is good. Okay, I'm thinking if I missed anything else. Let me try one thing. If I only have the Mojo and I have 4 shelves, let me change all of this to shelves. I'm just testing this if I'm using Mojo for correction. Plus 10 on the 20, 120 minus 4. That's about as close as I can get it on the Mojo too. But that's good enough, I think. Let me try that just for kicks. I know I said it's not really recommended, but let me try that just for fun. Just to see the difference. Is it that big of a difference? Let's see. Wow. That still sounds good then. As flat, not as linear as the other EQ correction. Let me check slow dancing if it's like irritating or what. Wow, it tamed it down. If I could, I would bring it down a bit more, but that's okay actually. Let's try. That's cool, man. Let's try another track here. Since the EQ is now on the Mojo 2, I could listen to anything on the Mac. Let's try this running to the other side. Let's try. Last part. We'll end here. This is just for me. Or maybe some of you guys has a Mojo 2, you know. Again, our resulting target is this. Yeah. Okay, the advantage here on the Mojo 2 is just the EQ sounds natural. Of course, the conversion, high quality conversion on the Mojo 2. If I could, I would prefer to just EQ with a bit minimal correction there on the Mojo 2 and just get used to the tuning and be able to mix that way. But since we are able to put correction on the channel EQ like this to achieve basically this target right there, that conforms more to the Harman 2013 there. Or actually, this is diffuse field, so it's more neutral and more balanced. Of course, go with this on the end of the master chain there. I would prefer this over sound source, because with a sound source, I feel like something weird is happening there. My recommendation would go channel EQ. You don't have to spend anything, use the stock EQ. It would sound great, natural. If you could afford a Q-Delix 5K, I think that would do the same thing as the channel EQ at the end of your master chain. Okay, who is it for? Out of the box, R30X is a fantastic starter for content creators, musicians who maybe haven't tried open back headphones before, or you're in a tight budget, or you just want to add to your headphone collection. With this, you're getting a glimpse into reference level sound, good sound stage, punchy low end, good clarity, and open top end. Maybe you have a home studio, or you're starting out your mix engineer journey, or you're curious about mixing on open backs. This is a fantastic entry point. And with proper correction, this can absolutely help get you killer mixes. As for my final thoughts, Audio-Technica envisioned this headphone to be a competent entry-level headphones, but if you're able to apply correction and get upgraded ear pads just to reduce that bleed, of course it doesn't magically add more detail that was not there before, but EQing helps you make better mix decisions and avoiding misleading frequency emphasis. I think with EQ correction, this will actually compete with higher price headphones. At 130 SGD or 99 USD, would I recommend this headphone? Heck yes! Absolutely recommend it. If you've never tried open back headphones for mixing, this is a great first step. No amp needed, though I still recommend pairing it with the Q-Delix 5K for greater flexibility and efficiency. Seriously, give this one a shot. Okay, giveaway details. I have a Gleam IO link in the description. You have to be residing in Singapore for this giveaway. I'm sorry to you guys outside Singapore. All you have to do is just sign in through the Gleam link. It will have 3 links in there. Just follow each link. You will need to be subscribed to this channel, Project Beats YouTube, and follow Audio-Technica, SEA, and Project Beats on Instagram. All of those links will be in the Gleam IO. That's all you have to do. Winner will be announced at the end of this month. Let me wear this. Alright, that's all for this video. I still have the R50X somewhere there and the R70XA full review and EQ guide for mixing. Stay tuned for that and see you guys in the next project.